Hello, friends. I'm no therapist, but I'm your host, Stephanie Goodman. I'm a wife, a mother, a grandmother, and a woman of faith. Often friends ask me how I have a successful marriage while blending families and staying optimistic in life. This podcast features people with real-life stories about success in relationships and triumph over trial. Do you need ideas to better connect with your spouse or significant other? With Valentine's coming up, we have a few discussions on how we can feel loved in different ways. My special guest is Mia Geren, a young and enthusiastic mother who is studying to become a sex therapist. Today we touch on some intimate subjects in an appropriate manner, but you may want to listen first before you share it with your young children. Hello and welcome to another edition of I'm No Therapist, but today we're going to talk about love. Today we have on set with us the lovely Mia. Mia and I met at a very special building that we call the Temple, and it was a fun reconnection, and I found out that she is studying to be a sex therapist. And when the opportunity arose, I had to have her on the show. So I want to introduce to you Mia.
Hi.
Mia, tell us about yourself. Where are you going with your education? And especially if you can, share with me what sparked your passion for diving into becoming a sex therapist.
Of course. So I'm currently still in my associate's degree. I had to take a break after having a baby.
Uh-huh.
So I am finishing up my associate's degree this semester, and then I'll finish up my bachelor's online over time and then get my master's in counseling. So however long that'll take me, I don't care, but I want to get it done, and I just want to be a sex therapist. So that will take some time, but on the journey, I'm just going to learn as much as I can that will benefit other people. So
Okay.
the journey started, I was sitting in some big room in the Institute building on UVU's campus.
Okay.
And I was in a group called Royal Heroes, and we would dress up as princesses and visit children in hospitals and just kind of cheer them up. And so I was part of this group, and we were trying to get volunteers to come to our group. And I was sitting there pondering, why am I in school? What am I doing with my life? Mm-hmm. I didn't have a baby yet. We hadn't even thought about starting a family. It was just my husband and I. I thought, what am I doing with my life? And the thought just came to me, you've always been pretty interested in sexual health, understanding the body, understanding why it's so important in young women and young men, and even in adults. And the impression was as clear as day. It was like, just go for it. Really? Go and be a counselor and do what you want to do. So I just started there. I kind of just looked at the classes I was taking and was like, well, hopefully I learned something here, but they have nothing to do with what I'm going to do in the future. I'm just going to change the classes next semester and go into this journey of love and sex. And so I just kind of took off from there a few years ago and have just gone to classes when I can. And, it's kind of hard with my husband in school too. So we've taken breaks, switched back and forth. And so
doing the best you can.
Yeah. So I guess it started a few years ago, about 3 years ago.
But I love that you choose to embrace that passion of helping others to understand intimacy. And I really believe that we are living in a day that, especially in our religion, where we really kind of sustain from intimacy actions until we're in a committed marriage, right? Mm-hmm. That can be, it can be a, what's the word I want to use? Pache? Is that the right word?
I don't even know what that means.
it can be a subject that we just don't bring up, especially with our parents, right? And yet it is so, so needed to be talked about because it's such a strong point of marriage, right? And we're taught in our church, at least from my experience, well, sometimes we're not taught anything at all. Let's be honest. I think I got most of my sexual information in the hallways of junior high.
I would agree. Probably the same place too for me.
And to bring it up with my parents was very embarrassing. And even for me as a mom, I tried to be open to it, but I'll turn bright red if the word sex comes up in conversation. Whoo, go ask your father, right? And I'm trying to do better. But I look back on being a newlywed and some of the things that I wish that I had known or at least was able to talk about either with my parents or someone that I trusted. Did you have an experience like that? Were your parents open with you about sex, or did you have to learn it on your own? And that's part of the reason why you say, I want to be that instrument of teaching others about it.
So I had a really great experience when I remember this day very well. Not that it was like super special. I just remember the day in 3rd grade. I thought, where did babies come from? And I just was so confused. I didn't understand how a belly could get bigger and a baby was inside. It didn't make any sense. So I asked my mom, just went in her room, and I was really embarrassed. I was like, I want to know where babies come from, and I'm scared to know. And she calmed me down. She sat me down. She's like, it's okay. You tell me when to stop if you're uncomfortable or you don't understand what I'm saying.
She's so good.
A gem. She's perfect in every way. She's still my best friend to this day. Yeah. Even just today, we're talking about lingerie. You know, she's the best friend who I can talk to her about funky stuff like that. So I wanted to know. So she told me about the anatomy of my body, which no 3rd grader knows what a fallopian tube is. No 3rd grader knows what an ovary is. That's just, those things they do not get brought up.
This is so true.
She just gave me the basics of what I could understand at that age, which was, this is what your body does, and this is what it's meant to do. And when you are with someone you love and they respect you, that is when you decide to grow your family, when you make a baby. And at that time, that's what I understood. So that was the extent of what I had. And then when the time in high school came to go further in the conversation, she went deeper. And I dated boys, so obviously the conversation had to come up because she was scared that something was going to happen. So it was, she's great. So I had a great experience as a young kid just wanting to ask, and I felt like I could trust my mom.
I think that's so profound that she mentioned to you, let's talk about this, and if there's anything that makes you scared or uncomfortable, stop me. She gave you permission to be in charge of that.
Yeah, and I admire it. That's what I want to be like.
That is so powerful. I love that. So we're coming up on Valentine's, and I have a little bit of history about Valentine's. Do you know where Valentine's Day came from?
No.
So I was thinking about this when I was preparing for Mia to come here, and I thought, what is Valentine's? Why do we have Valentine's Day? And did a little bit of research, and it's kind of an interesting story. It's kind of a morbid story, actually.
Now I'm super excited.
So let me pull up my notes so that I don't say the wrong story, okay? So how Valentine started, it started about 2,000 years ago. Fascinating, cool. Huh? And there was a conqueror, a Roman conqueror. He was an emperor, and his name was Claudius II. So the story goes like this. The Roman Empire, they were getting really powerful, and they were conquering Rome and some of China and even some of Australia. And they were getting powerful and very wealthy. Well, when some of the soldiers were doing well wealthy-wise, they started looking at wanting to start a family, to have the comforts of home and have a wife and have children. And so they started doing this, and Claudius got nervous that his army was going to grow soft and he would be conquered. So he actually made a law that his soldiers were not allowed to get married.
Oh, that was not where I was expecting it to go. It's really sad.
Well, they were both Christian, and they believed in the law. But when Claudius the second made this law, there was a bishop named Valentine's, Saint Valentine's, and he said that he would still marry the soldiers if they were in love and they wanted to get married. He would still marry them, but he would do it secretly.
Okay.
And as secrets go, sometimes somebody spills the beans, and he was discovered that he was marrying Claudius's soldiers. Well, this was a death threat, and he put St. Valentine's into a jail cell and had a death date set for him. But while he was in the jail cell, a daughter of the jailer, who was blind, would bring him food each time, and they would sit and they would talk for hours and hours, blah, 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 right? The date that was set for him, for his death date, was February 14th. And get this date, 270.
270?
Yep. February 14th, 270. And at one point, St. Valentine's reached through the bars and touched the blind eyes of this girl, and she received a miracle. She was able to see. And they started writing letters to each other and fell in love. And the last letter that he gave to her, he signed love. Let's see, he signed it. Love from your Valentine.
Oh, and that's where it came from.
Mm-hmm.
Morbid and really sweet. Weird to put together in a sentence, but...
Now, Kels and I, we're very fortunate where we're pretty good at professing our love to each other often, and we don't need a specific day to do that. So Valentine's, even though it's fun, and obviously I decorate, we have Valentine's all the time. What are some of your favorite Valentine's memories?
The boxes in elementary school, when all the cute kids that you had a crush on would just slip in their little note in your box, and you would just get so excited to read it, and it was something like, hi.
I know.
Like the dumbest thing ever, but oh, I loved it. It was even just the decorating the boxes and going to see everyone and see their little cards that they would make, and I don't know, that's kind of like a cheesy one, but I loved that. And my mother's just very big into, kind of like you, like she loves to decorate for every holiday. Maybe except for like St. Patrick's Day.
Oh, I do a little bit of that too.
But like the vintage antique Valentine card style, like even when I was serving a mission overseas, she'd send me the cutest handmade Valentine cards.
Oh.
So she makes a point, just it doesn't even have to be from your partner or your spouse or someone you're dating. It can be special from someone that's your parent or a sibling or your child. Like it, I don't know if you remember getting a Valentine's card from a child of yours, and it might not seem like that meaningful, but maybe at the time they just thought, I love my mom, I love my dad, I just want to give them this little card that says, Dear Valentine, hi, or
right.
like, I love you.
Yes.
So
This is true. In fact, you reminded me that I have a couple of those cardboard cards that were made by my children that I hold on to.
oh,
Yeah.
it's really sweet.
Yeah. So would that be a tradition in your home? Do you and your husband, do you celebrate Valentine's, or is that also just encompassed with your relationship in general?
We're actually super similar to how you explained you and Kels. We're just over the moon for each other every day. And so it's Valentine's Day every day. And so we actually were just talking about our Valentine's Day plans, and we were like, what are we going to do? Are we going to do anything fun? And I just thought, well, we're coming up with this while we have the flu at home, and it's a week before. Everything's going to be booked. Might as well just go to Taco Bell alone and just have someone watch Henry while we just eat burritos alone. So we're like, well, let's just celebrate a week later. We'll just go somewhere else. Nobody's going to have it overbooked the week after Valentine's Day. So we're not big on like the day of, but I do love the month of just thinking of different ways that you can show and express love to anyone around you. And even just the decoration in your home, looking at hearts can just give you really good feelings. Seeing the bright red and pink colors, it's very inviting and warm. And I think it's an all-around good feeling of the month.
That's a good point. It's a celebration of the heart, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And even if you don't have a specific special someone out there, like you said, you can go to family members, you can go to friends. I love that now there's a celebration called Galentine's.
Oh, yeah.
I did a many Galentines in my day. And
Cool.
I think that's fantastic that you take an event like that and just kind of embrace the fun of the season of it, right?
Yeah.
So I want to go into some of the questions that we have about. So we've talked about Valentine's, we've talked about this season. Now we need to go and talk about intimacy. Okay. What would you say is important for couples who are looking at becoming a married couple to know about?
So I actually have a book I would recommend to anyone of any age, and it's by, I'm forgetting her first name, but her last name is Brotherson. She was in my church back when I was in high school, so I just used to call her Sister Brotherson.
Oh my goodness.
But she has a couple of books out, and the one that was super helpful to me and that I've recommended to friends is called And They Were Not Ashamed.
Okay.
And I would just, any day that I have ever heard any friends or coworkers talking about different things that they've struggled with in their marriage, whether it was just like a little comment, I would just say, you've got to read this book. It's just incredibly helpful, because going from preparing to be married, especially in this state of Utah, but anywhere really, what kind of preparation of knowledge do we have on intimacy that is, one, respectful, two, on the same page as someone else, and just the knowledge of the anatomy of our bodies. And I think those are just three like very important things that we need to know before getting married. So in that book, I mean, it just goes over all of it. And she even gives stories of people that she has helped. And so
I know, looking back on my own situation, like I think you and I were talking before we started this recording, where growing up, we were told, intimacy is no. Like you don't look at another body. You don't do anything that stimulates those kind of feelings. You sustain from entertaining any of those moments with someone of the opposite sex, or whatever the situation is, you sustain from tampering with that, right? No, naughty, but keep it for your future spouse, right?
yeah.
That seems like, what do you call it, an oxymoron?
Yep, pretty much.
So with that in mind, like, how can we help married people to be able to have a healthy level of understanding, but also having the values that we especially in our church, feel are important for keeping ourselves for that spouse?
I think it starts with today. It starts with now. Even though I am only 26 years old, at the time I was 23 and I knew that I wanted to help people better understand sex. And at that time I was already learning so much that I wanted to know better of how to help my own children. And I think it doesn't matter what age we are, we can always be helpful in informing our children, even our parents, our spouses, of what a healthy sexual relationship is, and even just better understanding what sex is.
Okay.
Even just that statement right there, some people don't even know what it is. So,
are you willing to dive into that?
Sure. So with that, my husband and I have talked about a course that we want to make.
Okay.
For ages like kindergarten to 18.
Interesting.
Or K to 18, whatever.
Okay.
K to 12, that's what it's called, gosh. So
Yeah.
I have known my whole life that I've loved my body, and it's something to respect and to take care of. Mm-hmm. And there's been many people who have come out with books for children about understanding private zones.
Okay.
Is what they call it. Or how to understand how to call your anatomy by the proper terms instead of hiding from it. And so even from a young age of like 3 or 4, you can still understand my body is important. I have special parts of my body that are for me, and one day I can explore different feelings and different relationships with other people. And then as you get older, you can dive deeper into what different meanings are, what sex is, different sexual relationships, or when you get married, these are the kinds of things that like you'll do. This is how you make a baby. So we want to make a course that is for parents to teach their children at home, because in school systems, in my opinion, they do a pretty poor job of the maturation. They basically give you a pad and say, well, good luck on your period, and you don't even know what that is.
Yeah.
So, and then the sex talk it's like nothing, and some parents don't feel comfortable giving it to their children. And so if there's already information or even like some kind of course that is available for them, the words are already there, the information is there, they just need to know how to express it and learn with their child how they need to understand it.
This is very true.
Especially as you mentioned before, we're taught in our church not to even explore. Don't arouse any feelings before you get married. You can't practice. There's nothing that you can do. You just have to figure it out on day one of being married. Mm-hmm. And so if there was just some more open conversation going on before the day you get married, it'd be so helpful.
Yeah. So do you think that couples should take an intimacy course, or at least a class that they can talk about what to expect your honeymoon night?
Absolutely.
Mia, what advice would you give to couples who are starting out in a marriage?
I would bring up the 5 love languages, because it goes over specific parts of relationships that are people's strengths and weaknesses. There's a lot of do's and don'ts, things to look for and things to look out for that are like what you don't want to do, what you don't want to say. So I have on my phone a couple of notes, if that's okay to just bring it up right now.
Sure.
About the 5 love languages. So if anybody doesn't know what they are words of affirmation, physical touch, receiving gifts, quality time, and acts of service.
Okay.
So some of these may be, somebody's first love language may be service, and the other person is like, that's the last on my list. I could put like 100 other things before that. So even I was just asking my husband before I came over here, I was like, I'm pretty sure I know where yours lie, but maybe I'm wrong. I was wrong. I thought I knew.
Wrong.
Yeah, he said that time was his first one. I totally would have thought physical touch was his first one. And he was like, I love when I get to spend time, even without me, when it's with anybody else. He loves spending time with people. And so when he gets to spend time like with his dad, when he gets to just have good conversations with him when he's visiting home, that means a lot to him.
Okay.
Receiving gifts from people he loves, that means a lot to him.
Oh.
So it's good for me to know now. We're only like 5 years into being married, so that's good. But it's good to understand where your partner lies on the level of importance, because maybe we've been saying I love you every day thinking that means the world to them, and they're thinking, I already know you love me. I would really love it if you would bring home some flowers. I'd love it if you would fix something in the house for me, or if you would just, when you come home, the first thing you want to do is just hold my hand on the couch, and that's it.
Yeah, because maybe somebody doesn't know what their love language is. How can you determine that for yourself, so then you can express that to your spouse?
Right. So if you even just Google online 5 love language test, there's so many websites that will give you a link, and you can take the test and it will tell you where you lie. So
I loved when I was in junior high to open up the magazine and have the little take the test and find out. So I'm guessing that that's maybe what that is.
It's just like
5
that.
love
You
languages.
basically check off boxes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. And things
Hey,
change over
babe.
time, so maybe take it
You
again.
want to play? We'll figure out what our love language is. We'll take the love language test.
In French.
Maybe in bed.
So
I think I'm a words
So
of
good.
affirmation, and definitely physical touch. There was someone that taught me a little bit of how to recognize some of the gifts and what it is that speaks the loudest to you. And here's a visualization, if you don't mind me sharing.
I don't mind at all.
So, someone that you love and you have not seen for a long time shows up at your door out of the blue. How do you greet them? Do you bring them a gift? Do you hug them and embrace them? Do you say, oh my gosh, I haven't seen you for so long? What do you think that you do naturally?
I hug. Yeah, I hug and I just get all like high pitched and super excited. So it's definitely what I do. I know it because I've done it so many times.
See, that's exactly me too. I'm a huge hug. In fact, COVID shut things down for my love language hard.
It's so sad.
So hard. Yes. I still do it. I'm a rebel. What can I say?
Love it.
I think there's healing in hugs, and I think that we need to hug more often and hug with sincerity. Like, mean your hugs. Even when I shake hands, people will notice that I give them a hand hug, really. Mm-hmm. It's all the way close, tight. I am hugging them because that is my love language, and I think sometimes we don't even recognize that that might be our love language. So I give my love language. However, on the same space of how would you greet this person, how do you act when you are so mad at this person you can't stand them? Do you withhold your
personally?
touch?
Yeah,
Do you
absolutely.
withhold your words?
Totally hold it all back. Very quiet. Very quiet. Do you do the same?
Exact
quiet.
same. Yep. I'm quiet. I'm not physically embracing the people around me. I just shut down. And that's how I know what my love language is.
This picture that I found earlier is just a really good way of like kind of describing the 5 love languages. And it kind of goes over how to communicate. So words of affirmation is encouraging and affirming, just listening to your partner, wanting to hear about their day, is giving like really good eye contact when you're talking to them. So that when you ask them a question and you're listening, it's not like you just asked it just to get it out of the way and you want to look at something else and get distracted. Like you actually are interested.
Mm-hmm. You drink them in with your eyes.
It's cool because this gives actions to take. So one of them is send an unexpected note, text, or card. So my husband's actually really good at this. In the middle of the day, I don't know how he does it with his timing, but I'll be having a rough mom day, and he'll just text me, say, how's it going? How's Henry? Is there anything going on? Do you need me to call you? Do you want to call me? And even if we talk for just like 30 seconds, it makes my whole day better because I know he cares and he's thinking.
Invested.
Yeah. And then things to avoid are not recognizing or appreciating effort. So if there is something that you said yesterday and you thought it meant a lot because it came from a deep place and they forgot all about it, and that's kind of like a bad thing. You want to remember the little things, the little details. Maybe try to better understand, are those little things important to your partner? Then pay attention to them. If they're not and they really like to have the big, deep conversations, make time for the big, deep conversations so that you can just give them that time. Give them the words of affirmation. So, okay, so the next love language is physical touch, which we've kind of touched on a bit.
Touching you.
But I think the obvious of how to communicate is obviously touching them, but it can even start off with eye contact as well. Like with the words of affirmation, it's important to have good eye contact so you know that they're listening. But with physical touch, I think it can also just start with eye contact and like just hand holding. If you don't want to jump straight into something bigger than that, just start off slow. Like you can just hold hands. But non-verbal use of body language and touch to show love is the definition it gives. So showing love can be really simple as like, I want to play footsies under the table when we're eating dinner. Like, how cute is that? But might be weird for some people, but I think it'd be cute. So some ideas are, you can snuggle on the couch, just give each other like nice long hugs, like you were mentioning. Like a really good hug can really mean a lot, especially at the end of the day. If anything at work was going on, you need that touch. For me personally, I struggle with depression, PTSD, and anxiety. And sometimes if I am having, whether it's an anxiety attack or I'm just having a really overly anxious day, my husband knows with practice that I need him to hold me really tight. My chest feels so compressed that when he holds me really tight, I feel safe. I feel okay. And so right when he does that, I know that I'm okay. So that's my number one love language in all the ways. I love it, whether it's the hand holding, the kissing, or just the really tight hugs. When I'm feeling anxiety, it means the world to me. So just those things.
And I love that you've communicated that to him, so he knows how to serve you best in situations like that.
Yeah, it's really nice.
So what are our other love languages? Okay,
so the next one is receiving gifts. So ask them what they want. I can't do surprises, as we already know. So I can't even surprise with gifts. I've tried that. I got my husband a bottle opener that was a sumo wrestler, and you'd open it with the arms, and he looked at it and was like, what is this? I'm like, yeah, this was stupid. Whatever. You don't even open bottles ever. What's the point? I just thought he'd be like, oh, this is so cute.
Let me give you a hug jar.
So
this is for when I'm out of town, honey.
Oh my gosh. It's a little sharp though. Oh, it's funny. So I think
ask
just
them what
they want and put some thought into it. So I'm really big into art. I've been into art ever since I was a kid. So for my friends in high school, I draw them these cute little sketches of like what they look like. I was in cheerleading in high school, so I'd do these cute little cheerleader drawings and all these quotes of like what we'd say throughout the year or our favorite song lyrics. And it would mean the world to them. They'd put them in their binders. I'd put them in my binders, and it was just so much fun to look at. So I've learned that my husband really likes to have these little notes or these little things that just, they're specifically for him. So for one birthday, I like drew a little sketch of him, and I had everybody text me like their favorite thing about him.
Oh.
And I wrote it all over just around him.
Yes.
With like, happy birthday.
Oh.
So like that's a really good gift. He loves that. And he loves pickleball, so I give him pickleballs all the time.
There you go.
So you just know what they want and give it to them. Wow, pretty simple. And yet it's really hard.
You open up your eyes and you take note of what brings them joy, right? Mm-hmm. Are there any other love languages that we haven't touched?
Yes, there's 2 more. Quality time.
Okay.
So uninterrupted and focused conversations, one-on-one time is important. So create special moments, take walks, and do small things with your partner.
That's dedicated to them. Mm-hmm. You know, in this world where we have our devices available to us, it's so easy to, and I'm admitting to fault of this, of feeling like I can multitask. I can scroll and listen at the same time, right? I know what you're saying. Yeah, I got this. Oh my gosh, she got married? What were you saying? I'm so sorry.
I just did that before I came over here. I'm guilty.
We think that we can do it all, but really, quality time really is dedicated to each other. Make sure that you're in the same room together. Make sure that you're in close proximity to each other, but really dedicating that time together.
I think it's even appropriate to say we could set aside a time. What I like to do is if I know there's something I want to talk to my husband about, not anything super serious, just like, I just want to talk about a book you've been reading. So, like, my husband's been listening to Jurassic Park on his car rides. Actually, he just finished it. And I already finished it before him, so I love hearing about it. So, like, if there's something I want to talk to him about, I'll say, hey, tonight when Henry goes to sleep, let's just spend some time talking for like 10 minutes, nothing else, uninterrupted. Let's just talk. So I think it's really good to have a time, so then it's not like you get home and you expect your partner or your spouse really not there mentally because they're on their phone, and you're like, why aren't you paying attention to me? I want to talk to you about this. It's like, I didn't know you wanted my devoted attention right now. So
this is true. This is very true.
It'd be good to be on the same page there.
Yeah. We had a guest that talked about when she married for the second time that her husband really kind of established that 8 o'clock was his time. That there was nothing else, no phone calls, nothing. 8 o'clock was his time to be with her. Now, I think of that in my own life, and that would take a lot of discipline, to be honest with you. But I can also see how valuable that would be.
Because life is pretty precious, and you never know how short it is. So you could look back on those times, be like, I would give anything to go back and make it 7 p.m. instead of 8 to have an extra hour.
That's a really good point. I appreciate that, Mia.
Yeah.
So have we covered all of our love languages?
We have one more, acts of service. So let them know you are wanting to help to lighten their load. Make them breakfast or dinner. Go out of your way to help them with chores. I like the things to avoid on this one. So lacking follow through on small and large tasks. So that could go as far as a load of laundry, getting the tires changed on the car, picking something up from the grocery store. So I mentioned this earlier. We had the flu over the weekend, and we were all just kind of barfing all over the house. It was awful, baby included, like just not fun. But my husband, he overheard me say I just wanted something from the grocery store, and he just went up and he went and got it. And it made the weekend so much better. And so those little things, I've said this like a million times, but it will never get old. The little things matter.
The little things definitely matter the most. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
And I can jump into all the different things that my husband does for me. I believe that the way that he shows love is probably through acts of service. But I believe the way that he receives loves is probably affirmation and physical touch. We'll have to take our test and see if we're spot on our love languages.
Last time I took it, I was wrong. Mine was acts of service was my big hit. But in my personal opinion, I would put physical touch first. So maybe I should say they're on the same level, but depends on the day or the moment, I guess.
So I can see how being able to speak each other's love language would deepen your relationship. And I believe that if you're able to communicate and you're able to connect, the next step would probably be intimacy, because you have formed a relationship that is trustworthy and honest, and you have a desire to come together.
Mm-hmm. Because I don't think, you'd probably agree, I could not imagine going into such a big step with someone and not being on the same page. Not having an understanding of what I appreciate from that person, what this person appreciates from me, or expectations. If expectations aren't even there, I couldn't imagine feeling comfortable. And who wants to feel uncomfortable when they're being intimate?
Right.
No one wants that.
Right.
So.
And we know that when you get married, things change. Mm-hmm. You don't have the gagas as much, but you can look for ways to keep the gagas, keep them burning.
I love that word.
The gagas. I will say that even today, when my husband walks into a room, especially when he's dressed in his suit and tie, still got the gagas.
So even that's just so good to say out loud, too. How you feel. Really good to say it out loud.
Yeah, because sometimes they don't even know that that's what happens.
Yeah.
You know, I was in a marriage that was kind of cold because of circumstances that were held from each other. And so we were not able to connect as deeply as I feel like a marriage couple can. And so when I'm with my favorite man in the whole universe, I remind myself often that I can go and do the things that I wanted to. Heck, I can even get away with anything that I wanted to, like in high school, right?
Right.
I can take him to the back bleachers and make out or have whatever I want. That's right. And I make it a point to be flirtatious at every level because he's mine. Mm-hmm. You know, I wear the ring. I have every right to do whatever I want as long as it's in line with what brings him joy too.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I love that. And I love the 5 love languages are ways that we can connect with our spouse. Mm-hmm. To speak in the ways that help us to get to that place of remembering why we are married.
Yeah, and they're really good steps before the intimacy. Because there's been times where I've heard that things that happen throughout the day, they'll get you laid in bed. If you both want to have a deeper, intimate relationship in bed. Uh-huh. The acts of service or the words of affirmation throughout the day, the little text or the little note, that can get you there. If you're just expecting the intimacy to be there all the time no matter what, and nothing else can like help build to it, mm-hmm. I feel like it's just not worth it. If you don't have to work on it and put the effort in, and it's just there all the time.
Right.
Where's the respect for it and the fun?
Mm-hmm.
Because I love when I get to respect my spouse and we get to have fun. Yeah. It's not just one or the other. It's got to be both there.
And I would say, too, that you don't ever want to get, and my husband and I talk about this all the time, you don't ever want to be on the checkoff list. Mm-mm. A chore on the checkoff list, right?
Right.
And so how do you stay out of being a chore on the checkoff list?
I would say by not competing or having a one-up on each other. So, like, we change diapers right now in my house.
Okay.
And I catch myself all the time being like, well, I changed the last one. You got to change this one.
Yeah.
And it's not cool. It's like, well, I love you. It's just a diaper. I'm just going to change it. Doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Or
don't keep score, in other words.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
I think that's really important too. Because if you are too busy paying attention to keeping score, nobody can win with that.
Right.
Nobody wants to be in anybody's debt either.
I don't remember where I heard this, but it has stuck with me for my whole marriage. And it is that marriage shouldn't be based off of compromises. It should be based off of sacrifices. So that's where I think those butterflies can come back.
Yeah.
When you see your spouse doing something for you, like changing a diaper. When I say, oh, I got to change his diaper. And he's like, don't, sit there. Don't worry, I got this one. Oh, makes me so happy. Just that little thing. Or, oh, I got to go do the dishes. And my husband says, don't worry, I got it this time. Don't worry about it. It makes me feel so loved. And the butterflies kind of come in. It just feels nice. The sacrifices of whether they're little things or if they're big things, like where you want to live or what you want to do for your career. Like, if my husband wanted to do something that doesn't necessarily promise a big income, that's a big sacrifice. But if the love is there, then it's worth it.
I have some fans that have wrote in a question that they wanted me to ask you. And so I'm going to dive into that. Here's a situation. How can you best resolve intimacy issues from a past trauma or ex-spouse?
The first thing, okay, well, I first want to say I'm not qualified to give any deep advice on as like a sex counselor. Of course, it's what I want to be. But I would say find a counselor or a therapist ASAP. They are so qualified to listen and to give support and to give the instructions or even just the tools that when you're not in the therapist or counselor's office, you know how to work on those things when you are out in the world. When you want to work on things in your relationship with someone new, you can take into practice the things that you've learned from a professional. So I would first say find someone who can really help you, because you never know how deep those issues can be. It could be something that you thought was really minor from high school, and it could end up impacting you for the rest of your life if you never get help.
This is very true. And I know that we carry a lot of our baggage into another relationship. And I believe, I remember in my own situation being at a space of embracing a new relationship in my life. Like, I'd only been with one man, right? How am I going to open myself up to be with another man? And there was also those demons of, I've been chewed, already been chewed. Nobody wants already been chewed gum. And here I was, this statistic of being already used. Who would want me in a relationship? Like, these were some of the demons that I dealt with in having to be out there in the single world again and thinking about intimacy and marriage in my life. There was trauma from my past relationship, and how do I not bring that into the bedroom, so to speak, with my spouse?
I would be as open as comfortably possible with that next person that you want to be intimate with before reaching the bedroom. And that can go as far as, let's be in a different room to have this conversation.
Oh, yeah.
And then we can go into the bedroom, and that's where other things can happen. That's where the intimacy can happen, or the physical intimacy. But the emotional intimacy really does need to be on a really good connection first. So maybe it could be we're in a different room and we talk about things that, say I had been in a traumatic experience and I really need to just let him know that it hurt me. Maybe something that he might think is fun, that might hurt me. So he just needs to be aware. So having that really open honesty is big, because intimacy in the bedroom, it can be beautiful if you trust your partner. But if you can't be open, then the trust isn't going to go all the way. Whereas one partner might think, oh yeah, they trust me. Like, I love them. We're married. This is fine.
Yeah.
But if they don't know the things that are really troubling you, then you could be sitting there just thinking, I wish I would have told them this.
Yeah.
I feel uncomfortable.
Right. Yeah. And I would say, too, have the conversations not while you're in the middle of being in bed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have the conversations when there's time to be able to talk about it. Talk about what you like, or what positions are comfortable for you, or what you would rather your spouse do, or how you need to be touched to be at that level of comfort and enjoy your experience.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Do not use intimacy as a discipline. That's the biggest advice I could give. Is never use intimacy as a discipline.
It can be anything. But just to look at yourself as, this is a new start, and that's okay. I don't have to look like the perfect model in a magazine. That's not necessary, ever.
Right.
As long as your partner accepts you for the way that you are, then that can be a really great place to have a really good new start.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And also, I think it's important to be loving to yourself. Because how can you open yourself up to your spouse if you don't love who you are?
It's probably more important. Absolutely.
If you've enjoyed this episode, remember to subscribe, share, like us on Facebook, and follow us on Instagram. Please comment, because I would love to hear about what you think and what you want to see in the future. I'm no therapist, but I am your host, Stephanie Goodman.